We now enter upon the first of three terraces devoted to love excessively directed to objects in themselves good. Here, that object is material possessions. The sin is greed. The greedy must lie prostrate on the ground, their faces in the dirt, as once they figuratively bowed down to worship material things. The forced immobility of these figures is shown by their bound arms and legs, a visual metaphor introduced by the artist to allow more direct interaction with Dante. To the left, Pope Adrian, whose irrelevant former rank is indicated only by a triple tiara, bows before Dante, suggesting the lines where he refuses Dante's expressions of reverence, saying, "I and all the rest here are just your fellow servants before the only true ruler." At center, Dante listens to Hugh Capet, founder of the Royal House of France, expatiating on the wickedness of his descendants, particularly the rapacious Philip IV, who robbed the papal bankers, the Knights Templar. At far right, Dante and Virgil have met Statius, a 1st century AD Roman poet who revered and imitated Virgil's Aeneid. Statius has just completed his penitence and is advancing heavenwards, which is why he is able to accompany Virgil and Dante. We are shown the scene where Dante reveals to Statius who his companion actually is. I said, "As much as you marvel, spirit from antiquity, to see me smile, accept this overplus of wonder. My guide, who directs my gaze ever upwards, is that very Virgil from whom you inherited the strength to sing of men and gods. If you suppose another motive for my mirth, set aside that errant guess. The real reason's what you yourself said of him." Statius was already bowing down, reaching reverent hands to touch my teacher's feet, but Virgil said, "Brother, you mustn't." And indeed, a ghost can't touch a ghost. Statius, rising, said, "Now see how great's the flame of my admiration, making me forget what nothing we are, and shadow that I am, grasp at shadows." The illustration terminates at upper right, with the angel who admits them to the next terrace. The next level of excessive love is that occupied by the gluttons. The first vignette shows Dante, who has just entered the new level, gazing entranced at the first of the trees, shown at far left. We look from the point of view of the angel who guards the entrance to this terrace, which is why his back is turned to us. In the poem, the trees are described as growing upside down, so that what should have been the lowest, most accessible fruit-bearing branches are now at the unreachable apex, the better to tantalize the gluttons. In this illuminated manuscript, where the face of a figure is only 3 letters wide, the artist had to choose a single key detail to express the meaning of the scene. For this, the inverted trees would not have been so effective as the emaciation of the figures. Dark and hollow were the eyes of all. Pale was their skin, their bodies so thin and diminished that their bones alone gave taut shape to their stretched and tented hides. At far left we see Dante in blue, Virgil at center in red, and Statius, barely visible at right, staring in pity at the starving gluttons. The artist has not represented the friend from Dante's youth, Forese, the main figure of this canto. Instead, by the exact balance of the 3 poets looking back at the 3 starvelings, he makes the visual point that they are seeing themselves in the skeletal forms. The 3 and 3 contrasting figures make an emblem of empathy. To the right, the artist has rendered the lines, "I saw people standing beneath the tree, lifting their hands, crying out uselessly for the fruit, like children whimpering for what they want, who whine and bleat with greed when some adult holds a treat out of reach, making them beg, only showing the prize to make them want it more." This tree is growing from the midst of a stream, which is a visual simplification of the actual description. Dante tells us, "From the rock-faced, cliffy, inward side of the road, clear liquid fell from granite height, misting the leafage, dewing the fruit, but never reaching the ground." And Forese will inform us, "We're consumed as if by fire, just by thinking only and ever how much we want to eat and drink, fascinated by the fragrance of water, the bouquet of the fruit wafting down through the branches." Here, 2 skeletals greedily peer at the unattainable water, pictured as a stream, like that which ever receded beneath the lips of thirsty Tantalus. As ever, Della Quercia has made a masterful adaptation of the poem's imagery to accommodate the space. The final terrace of excessive love is that of the lustful. At left, Dante enters, seemingly between 2 Virgils. The figure at far left is actually Statius, as the slightly different color of his robe indicates. In fact, the rendering of the 2 Roman poets has been very similar all along. For the illustrator, they were nearly equivalent figures. After all, the illustrations here distill into symbols successive phases of the journey. Characterization of individual figures has never been a primary concern. The lustful burn, now literally with passion. In the center they stand amid flames which are visually indistinguishable from the smoke that filled the terrace of anger. When all is being rendered into symbols easily read, however small, the visual equation of flame and smoke is quite understandable. The lustful, who are divided into heterosexual and bisexual companies, run round their flaming level of the mountain, and as often as they pass one another, they are compelled to show a restraint they never had in life. All the ghosts in both companies hurried to greet one another with a kiss. Just a quick peck of glad, abbreviated greeting, very pointedly seemly. At the left of the burning group, Guido Guinizelli is shown addressing Dante. Guido was an eminent love poet from the previous generation, and Dante will discuss literary theory with him. The torments here are for Dante, who began his career as a love poet with La Vita Nuova, a matter of professional interest. To the right, Dante is being led by Virgil into the flames. As the final purification of his sinful nature, Dante must pass through fire. He is understandably reluctant. We are shown the scene where Virgil persuades him with the words, "Even if you stood 1,000 years within the very belly of this blaze, you wouldn't be the bolder by a single singed hair. If you somehow suppose I'm trying to trick you, go closer to the fire. Test my testimony. Taste the truth of it. Hold out your garment's hem to the fire with your own hands. The flames only lick. They can't eat." Overhead, the radiant angel of the following level watches Dante and Virgil approaching.